Okay, it is 10 o'clock and we will start. Who is that?
Terry Fawcett's on the phone.
Oh, hi, Terry.
Morning.
We will get going, and this meeting will be held in person and via WebEx video conference and streamed live on the internet. Not more than 2 county commissioners will be present in the meeting room. The public may join the meeting via WebEx in person at the meeting room or watch the live stream. If joining the meeting in person, the total number of persons, including the commissioners, cannot exceed 10, and social distancing of at least 6 feet will be in effect. The governor of the state of Minnesota has issued Executive Order 20-01 declaring a peacetime emergency and coordinating Minnesota's strategy to protect Minnesotans from COVID-19. On March 24th, 2020, the Pine County Board of Commissioners declared a local emergency for Pine County. Based upon these conditions, the chair of the Pine County Board of Commissioners has determined that the requirements of Minnesota Statute 13D-021 Subdivision 1 have been met, and it is not practical or prudent for all members of the county board to meet in person. The public is invited to join the meeting in person or remotely. We will call the meeting to order and rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Didn't show up on screen.
Okay, we are to public forum time. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on public forum, either on the call-in or in person?
Mr. Chair, it's David Hickey. There is no public in the meeting room.
Okay. I do not hear anybody on the call-in. So we'll move on to adopting the agenda. You got any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, we have 3 pieces of additional information. There's Facility Committee meeting minutes, Health and Human Services Committee minutes, and Transportation Committee minutes.
Thank you, and I believe we all got those emailed to us. Any other agenda items from anybody? Otherwise, we'll look for adoption of the agenda.
Ludwig will move with additions.
Mickrot seconds.
A motion by Ludwig, second by Mickrot. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 4, Commissioner Mickrot.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Moore.
Josh seems to be locked up. His little thing has the circles just going around and around. Give us a thumbs up, Josh. Oh, he's frozen in time.
Should I just proceed on with?
Yeah, just continue on. I'll text him.
Okay. District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
All right, that passes. We'll move on to approval of the minutes of August 4th. The board minutes and summary for publication.
Mickrot will move.
Okay. I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion by Mickrot, second by, was that Chafee or Ludwig?
Chafee.
Chafee. All right. Clerk will call the roll.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore. District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Mickert.
Aye.
Okay. We'll move on to the minutes of boards, reports, and correspondence. Pine County Chemical Health Coalition minutes of August 10th.
Ludwig will move.
Mercott seconds.
Motion by Ludwig, second by Mickert. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore. District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Mickert.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Approval of consent items.
Chafee moves that.
Mercott seconds.
Got a motion by Chafee, second by Mickert. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
I don't see him yet.
I see it. I mean, there's an indicator on my screen that he's there.
Oh, there is no, yes. I sent him a text to reconnect. He's trying, he says.
Okay. District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Mickert.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
And I'll try again. District 2, Commissioner Moore. Nope.
Okay, we'll move on to facilities committee report.
Do you want me to take that, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, please.
Okay. We had a meeting on August 5th. We reviewed the 2021 building facility operating budget. And it's relatively flat. Discussed the rent from the Health and Human Services of South Pine Government Center for 2021, dependent on our move schedule, moving out of that courthouse.
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right, so then we moved on to reviewing the 2021 building fund budget, and we discussed potential for upcoming capital projects and the potential funding, including the use of debt funding from refunding the courthouse bond. So that's an ongoing discussion at this time. Space planning, the transition to update from South Pine Government Center, which I touched on, that's moving Health and Human Services to the new courthouse. Looks like we're gonna be able to pull it off, so that's gonna happen to be a good thing. Review the status of COVID-19 improvements, and Pete updated on the committee on the work completed to date. And there'll be some new glass partitions to increase the height in some of the cube walls at North Pine Government Center. And the flagpole is progressing. I think it's laying out there right now. We're gonna get a covered flagpole for the North Pine Government Center. So, other than that, it was pretty much it, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chair, just,
Yep.
I'm going to give a little update on our conversation with the building fund and the use of debt financing, because that will be coming up in September, to likely be coming to the county board to refinance existing courthouse debt. And the facility committee talked about wrapping in some of the upcoming building fund costs into the debt, so that we would not have to levy for the building fund for 2021 to help keep the levy low.
Yes, thank you. We'll move
Mis-
on to Health and Human Service. Yeah.
Mr.
who's
Chair?
got questions?
Okay, this is
Yeah.
John. I am back.
Yeah.
So sorry
Yeah.
about all the technology problems. Okay, and that's what kept me from the facility committee meeting, and I appreciate you filling in from me. I was having technology problems that day too. So hopefully I'm back on my cell phone and iPad here. So we're trying, but sorry.
All right. Thanks. Thanks. Health and Human Services Committee met on August 11th. So Steve Chafee and I were at that meeting. If, I don't know, Steve, do you want me to do it or do you want to start out?
Well, I can do part of it, Steve.
Yep.
I'm having a hard time hearing here. I don't know. There's a lot of noise and interference, but I'll maybe let you talk a little about the Justice Center and the legislative things that we got. We met on this on our committee. Health advisor administrators, Commissioner Lowe, gave us a little bit of a breakdown on the pandemic and what's happening in Pine County, and it's slowly increasing. And last time I looked, and I don't know if Sam's here today, but it was about 130. I thought 132, or maybe it was 138. And the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting, that half of those cases were from the Willow River facility, I think is what Sam said. So, you know, in the overall picture, we really aren't doing too bad in Pine County. I don't remember, Steve, what she said. They had done testing. Was it 8,000 or 9,000? Do you remember?
I have to find it again. I think it was around 9,000 tests, but don't quote.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that's what it said. And so that's kind of where that's at. Sam did talk a little bit about, you know, the purchase of this public health van with the CARES Act funds, which I think would be a good deal. They could use it for mobile testing and vaccinations and, you know, a lot of different uses for that. So I'm kind of hoping that works out, Sam. I think that's a really good idea. And then we had a little bit of a budget overview from Becky, and, you know, it didn't really look too bad. I think it was, well, according to this, it's 250 out of balance. One thing that I thought was a positive was our out-of-home placement, which looked a lot better than it has in the past. As you all know, we've had to raise the levy just for that in past years. So, and she was looking a little bit from Steve and I as far as, you know, what we thought is, you know, how she could make that balance. And I think, Steve, you and I both are of the same mind that, you know, she's the expert in this. She knows which programs, you know, she can cut if she has to, or which ones are most important. So, you know, we'll probably determine more of that when we work on our budget, but I trust Becky will figure that out. Then we did have a little update from Terry Fawcett on the community coach. Bill has been working 3 days a week during the summer, the pandemic, I guess, basically. And I did get an email from you, Terry. It looks like when school starts, Bill is going to have 2 days. You correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, but 2 days at Hinckley, 2 days at Sandstone, and split a day between Willow River and Pine City. And you know, that is really, in my opinion, that has been a great thing that we've done there with him. I mean, I've seen some real results in the Hinckley School District since we've had this community coach. So it was money well spent. Let me put it that way. And Terry did say that there could be possible funding for this through the Family Collaborative, and, you know, that remains to be seen. But it is a really positive program, and it's been that way in Hinckley, and I'm hoping. I mean, Hinckley has 250, 270 Native American kids. East Central has maybe half that, but I think maybe East Central has kind of got a little bit of the short end of the stick. So hopefully you know, if Bill can spend an extra day up there, will really make a difference in working with those kids. Let me see. The other thing with the courthouse space planning update from Becky, her and Kelly are looking at, you know, moving the folks from South Pine Government Center. A lot of those are working from home and trying to find room for those in the North Pine Government Center. And you know, they're going to have some costs involved. And I'm not real sure what this Becky, what this bond refunding is. Is that part of that, what you were just talking about, David, on the planning committee?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is David. Can you say your question again? I'm not sure what your question was.
Oh, Becky had just talked a little bit about, you know, the space available for South Pine Government. And she's, you know, a lot of them are working from home. She was talking about, you know, those that will work at the North Pine Government Center, the cost of improvement to include courthouse bond referendum planning for later this year. I'm not real clear what that is. Bonding refunding plan for later this year is can you enlighten me?
Sure, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Chafee. So given the extremely low interest rates, we have been on track to refund the courthouse bond this year. It's callable in February 2021. So to do that, we need to start the process this fall. At the same time we're refinancing that, we're going to look at wrapping in the costs of the building fund and any costs to make remodels or improvements at the courthouse so that HHS can move back, incorporating those costs into the bond so that we can pay for those. And we can likely do that at relatively little cost due to the extremely low interest rates.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, David. I kind of thought that's what it was, but it comes out of your mind better than it does mine. So, Steve, if you want to talk a little bit about the East Central Regional Juvenile Center update and the legislative issues, you know, feel free to do that.
Oh, but thanks, Steve. The East Central Regional Juvenile Center, Terry gave us a report, and I think we've been following along with this development actually for several years. Is we're kind of in that point where we're paying for beds we're not using, and in times of tough going, Terry is really weighing that, and Matt is our commissioner assigned to that program, and they've been weighing that. Do we partner up with another county like Kanabec and buy a half a bed? What do we do? Do we just quit completely, take a chance? And so that's a decision that's got to be made at some point. And so it's been a great facility for us, but as times change and as I think programs that we've initiated, Terry and Becky and Reese and the whole crew have been doing things differently. Maybe we're heading some of these kids off at the pass so they don't end up there. Some kids are going to end up there no matter what, but Terry, maybe you can explain it better than I can, but that's kind of it in a nutshell in my mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well stated. The timeline that a decision will have to be made by the county will be by the end of the year. Per the current joint powers agreement, you have to give a 1-year notice. I did have a subsequent meeting this morning with the probation director of Kanabec County. He's going to have a few more conversations with his board in the next month and a half, but he feels the same way I do. Without some modification to the joint powers agreement and the language going forward, that really difficult to justify spending money for the unused beds going forward. As correctional delivery has changed dramatically in the last 10 years, and So we're continuing to work that issue. I think we have our next full board meeting set for October, and I think we'll have a much clearer picture on what we might want to do at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple other things here just to highlight. The legislative challenges, I think, as they relate to HHS, of course, there's the ongoing waiver issue that we're working hard on with AMC, and hopefully we'll get most of that figured out sometime in the next 24 months or 12 months. The other thing is the challenge with the closing announcement of the closing of the Willow River camp and the impact that has on Pine County. It's a really good program that they have. I was scheduled to take a tour with the some legislators and stuff, but that got canceled due to COVID. But we're plus the fact that it's 51 jobs, I believe, that are dearly needed in East Central Minnesota and especially Pine County. So if anybody has any late breaking news on what's going on there, I know our area legislators are working hard to try to say this is a program, this is the place that needs to stay, the program needs to stay in effect, and it needs to be not incorporated into some great big prison someplace else. So anybody else have anything on that? The other thing is we had a little discussion on phase and the fiscal stress that they're going through. Phase is a big part of what happens with a lot of people. I don't know how many clients they serve, Becky, in Pine County, but it's a lot, 150, 200. If the worst case scenario happened and they went away, what would happen with all those people? We're not prepared for that. And so hopefully they can figure out their funding mechanisms and how they can continue to operate in somewhat of a fashion that they're used to. And it's a real struggle for them right now. Anybody got any more information on that?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Steve?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Chafee. You know, that's kind of interesting because I was approached by a constituent the other day, and I don't know if anybody else has had this or heard this, but he just said he had heard, and he didn't tell me where, that we were no longer gonna fund phase. And I don't know if anybody else has heard that. I tried to put that to rest right away, but I don't know. I was really kind of surprised.
We don't fund phase.
Yeah, we do give them money.
We have a contract with phase to help with our recycle program, but we don't. I mean, Pine County doesn't write out a check to phase.
And Mr. Chair.
I thought there was.
Yes.
I had a telephone conversation with Tim Schmutzer like a week and a half ago, the executive director for phase. And he was asking questions about our business assistance grant program, which is funded through the CARES Act. And phase does not qualify for that because they have more than 50 employees. And so Commissioner Chafee, I did tell him that he didn't qualify for that program, which may be interpreted as we're not going to fund them because they're not eligible for that business assistance program. I don't know that necessarily is where it's coming from, but that could be.
And this is Becky Foss from Pine County Health and Human Services. I just feel like it's important to add some things. I know there wasn't maybe a lot accomplished in the most recent legislative callback session, but I believe that there was some funding passed for businesses like phase. So I think there are some funding opportunities they can access. And we do use waiver case management dollars to help fund some services for our clients who are eligible for waivers. We do have some county-paid clients who access services, and we are not reinstituting that yet at the same level as we have due to certain expenses that we're trying to keep at a minimum. But I don't know if that's what people are referencing, but we do fund them through waiver case management and a few county-paid clients.
Thanks for that clarification.
And Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
if I could jump to legislative updates and just add a little info on that SSIS piece.
yep,
So last session, Senator Rarick had initiated legislation, kind of the paperwork reduction for ICWA. And it related to streamlining and improving SSIS for ICWA cases. And that bill did have a hearing in the Senate. Beth Jarvis, our children's supervisor, did testify there. Conversations from that meeting resulted in a little improvement to the legislation to not focus on ICWA, but all of SSIS. And so it seemed like that was a piece of legislation that Pine County could lead on this session. And so we've been working with AMC to try to get that integrated into their platform for consideration at the fall policy conference.
thank you. Before we leave Health and Human Services, I just want to give a thank you to, first of all, Becky for the great presentation she gave to our committee on the budget. It's just refreshing to see how they've got things laid out. And as a department head of a huge department, that's a lot of work and a lot of balls in the air at the same time. So thank you, Becky, for that great work. And also a shout out to Sam. Sam, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I got 2 absolutely unsolicited compliments about you and your staff from school personnel and their willingness to step up to the plate and really help them, because they, as one superintendent told me, they are not public health people. They're educators. They need help. They've reached out to you guys, and you guys have been providing them with the things that they need. So your work has not gone unnoticed, so thank you much. I think that's it for, unless somebody has any other.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I missed that up here in her, with the schools. I just had a quick question maybe for Terry. He's there, right?
Yep.
You still there? I was going to ask this the other day at the meeting, and it slipped away from me, but you had talked a little bit about the funding for the cultural community coach out of the family collaborative. And I was just curious, the county pays what, 25 and the tribe pays 25? Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if it goes to the collaborative, would they pay the whole thing? Would that whole thing be funded for that, or would the tribe still have to kick in? How would that work if that were to happen?
I believe that the collaborative would pay that. Essentially, there's monies that exist now through our LCTS. In our random moments, we get money back from the state, and the money essentially that we had was the truancy position, and we didn't renew that position a year plus ago. So there is some money available. It is dependent on LCTS continuing, and Becky can probably explain that better than I can. But to answer your question, no, the tribe wouldn't need to contribute.
Okay, then that and we'll just wait to see what happens. But thanks, Terry. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to Transportation Committee report. John and I were there with Mark, and we got an update on the 5-year plan John, do you want to say some things?
I can start out for you. On the 5-year plan, we got some projects shifting around a little bit. 10 miles on the northern part of Highway 61 has been moved up a year. And in doing so, we pushed back Highway 28 and 35 a year. Highway 13 going to the state park has also been added to the last year of this program. In 2024, we have more projects, but they're smaller. Up in Willow River, we're still waiting for a permit from the DNR to replace that, I believe, with the project there, and where that dam project is I really don't know right now. One time earlier this summer, I saw them, they were gonna do another study, then came across that they don't need to study, and so I haven't heard nothing since about it. Other than that, I guess just, we had a motor patrol bids that were out. Caterpillar and John Deere bid it. John Deere came in significantly less, I believe, than Caterpillar. So I believe we give Mark the go ahead to get what best suits the operators there. Talked about a little bit about the public health van. David's gonna follow up on that a little bit more, get some more information. Then I'll let you go from there unless you want me to talk about the street sweeping, Steve, but I'll let you take that.
With a guy to do street sweeping. The guy happens to be Commissioner McGrath. And so if the county does some street sweeping on streets that go through a city, can they contract from a guy that's a county commissioner? So that's a question that Reese will review and get an answer to. But also, Sam, we did talk about your public health van, and David will follow up with you on that. So anyway. You want me to finish up, John?
Sure, go ahead.
There's some down timber from storm. The county owns some property west of Carrick, has many trees that were blown over. The foresters looked at the property, does not think there's any value to the timber due to the difficulty of getting it. And the consensus of the committee was to have the forester coordinate the removal of the down timber. And we did similar action when we had a storm out by Markville. Some of that timber had some value, probably pretty good value when it's standing straight up and down, and a logging company can go in. I've talked to several loggers that when that stuff is laying down and twisted up, it's slow going, and the product is usually not worth very much. So if we can get rid of it before it turns into a fire hazard, I think we're better off. We also had quite a discussion about fleet management. We spend about $670,000 a year on all of our vehicle purchases, and most of that is for the sheriff's office vehicles. And so one thing that I pointed out is we have to keep replacing vehicles on a schedule, but we turn the sheriff's office vehicle procurement over to fleet management. And they kind of sucked up the amount of money in their budget, and we haven't given them more money as vehicle prices have increased, or just in general. So we probably need to really have a serious think about that when we set the budget levy for our highway department and how we're gonna manage. We'll take a real good look at the fleet management, and I just throw it out there now so you can start thinking about it. So we're about Mark figures and Eddie figure we're about $100,000 behind where we really need to be if we're gonna keep up with vehicle replacement. And that's everything from road grader to a dump truck to a car that Kelly's staff or the assessors drive around in. So we got a lot of vehicles, a lot of varying types of vehicles. And we keep those vehicles around a long time. That road grader we just traded off, if you read the minutes, had 15,000 hours on it. And that's kind of what we shoot for. 14,000 hours, you get 1,000 hours a year, we get 14 years of life out of them. You can do the math. It costs us about $17,000 a year to own a patrol, and they wear out. You have to replace them. So I think that will be a good discussion for us to have at a later date. But thank you, Mark, for keeping on top of the road projects. I know you're always very, very cognizant of how much levy money we're sticking into those projects. It's kind of I think almost a anomaly. Our sales tax collection in Pine County that at 0.5%, 0.5% goes to our local road project is still increasing from month to year, so July 2020 is more than July 2019, and which is more than 2018. So, but on a statewide level, the gas tax collection is down, so we're going to get less money. So we know that Mark is planning for that, and so we're going to have to kick the can down the road on some projects that we normally would keep up on a year-to-year basis. That fair to say, Mark? I'm not hearing.
There you go. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think that's a good summary. So we did talk about the potential reductions in revenues next year, what 15% reduction from state aid will mean for us. In total, it's about $1.3 million reduction. So that would be part of our road projects that we're proposing and maintenance, staff, some of those things that we're looking at and how we can contain those costs. The one action item, I guess, if the board would take action today, would be on the 21 to 25 highway improvement plan. As you guys talked about, in the last year, we added some projects. It's actually County Road 22 that goes into the park. It's almost 7 miles, and that's I think we did that in 98, so it's showing its age. And we try to get some state park account money for that, and that would help us offset some of our other budget costs. And then 13 in the Brook Park area, and then up by Carrick, 56 and 47. Try to do those together. So we're adding a few projects. There's, like I say, there's some pushing back a few projects a year so that we can move that 10 miles of 61 up. It's actually, the 61 project was scheduled for 2023, so we're actually moving that up 2 years. In the spring, it's just falling apart, and we're just having really a hard time keeping that together. And I guess we would classify that stretch as one of our main arteries through the county, and prioritizing that as a project. So that was the committee's recommendation on that. So if Chairman, if you think the board could take action on that, then my staff's got some guidance on planning some of these projects.
Mark, I had emailed out the 5-year plan that the committee was looking at. So I don't know if you are able to project that or if Debbie can project that on the screen, just so commissioners can look at it as they consider it.
Yeah, and so it's last year's 5-year plan, basically, with the new 4 years. With the same projects, like I say, the 61 project was moved up. So then next year, 28 and 35 were moved back a year. And then 17 and 18 were moved back a year. And then 36, 37, and 38 were moved back a year. So some of that is because of our projected loss of revenue. So if we don't lose that revenue, things are better than we think. It's possible we can move something back up a year in each of those years, you know. So we're, you know, this is probably the worst case scenario. So, and it, you know, it kind of gives the public an idea, gives you as board members idea where these projects are at, and it gives my staff the ability to plan our resources on getting these projects ready. So if the board's more comfortable, we can come back, you know, at the next meeting or meeting after that to approve it. If you'd rather do that. There's a couple federal projects. There's $300,000 in funding for the trail project in 2024. That's going to go from Pine City High School to the Rock Creek City Center. So then we'll be connected. You'll be able to be on a trail from Rock Creek up to Pine City around the high school and out east of Pine City up to the Snake River Bridge. That'll be Wall One connected trail. We're proposing the remainder of 61 in 2024 would be a federal project. We're looking at several sales tax projects, and as Commissioner Holland stated, the revenues are coming in better than we expected. And so that's something else that we can look at down the road as far as updating potential projects in that. It's another resource that we haven't had in the past. So that could help supplement some of these projects or possibly move them up a year or something like that. So, but that would probably be something we'd probably discuss next year.
Planning, and if more money comes available, he will come back with a revised plan and move projects up as appropriate.
And the one project not in here is the 61 culvert replacements in Willow, because I have no idea what the DNR is doing, and they won't give us a permit for culverts. We have to do a bridge. It's a complete redesign, and it's probably an extra $400,000. So I'm just holding off on beginning that project process until they either do the dam or don't do the dam, because then we'll have a better idea of what we can do there.
We understand that part. So We need a motion to approve the 5-year road plan.
Moore will make that motion.
Thanks, Josh.
Jake.
Chafee seconds. Any more discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner McRae.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Okay, that passes, and we'll move on to the County Veteran Service Office Operational Enhancement Grant. Who's going to take that?
Me.
Commissioner, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Good morning.
Hi.
Thank you. Each year, the MDVA offers a $10,000 operational enhancement grant that we can apply for, and things that we've used for in the past is we've gotten logo apparel for my office, bandanas for the veterans, pens for the veterans, newspaper advertisements with things that are going on in the county, training, software and staff expenses is what we've used it for in the past. And that's what we're requesting for today. I understand you want an update on what's going on in my office. Is that correct? Well, you're going to get it. So COVID-19 Disaster Relief Grant is a grant that can be applied for. It's just for veterans that are affected by COVID-19. Our office has had about 50 applications for this grant, and each veteran that has applied for it and has got it granted to them has received $1,000 to help them through this time. We have also purchased through the CARES Act, we purchased $2,000 in Chris's and Daggett's gift cards, and we're giving those out to veterans that have been laid off or affected by COVID-19. We have the van program. Rides slowed down a little bit during COVID. They're picking back up. We have awesome volunteers that drive our veterans to the VA medical centers, and it's picking back up, and the VA is actually starting to take more appointments now. We are averaging about 15 to 20 vet appointments per week and taking care of those. And we're averaging about 60 phone calls per week, and we're taking care of those. We are involved in some outreach programs. We're working with Beyond the Yellow Ribbon out of Pine City. They go a 30-mile radius around them. So they go cover Kanabec County, Mora, Pine City, Hinckley, Sandstone. They've helped us out with a lot of veteran things, so which is fantastic. Last month, I helped with the food distribution. I wore my logo shirt while I went and did this food distribution. I had many veterans that were utilizing the food distro and came up and talked to me. I gave out my business cards, and they've actually called in and got some help. So it was a good thing that, I think it was a good thing that I was there showing the support. Coffee Talk, before COVID, I had about 20 veterans per month coming in for Coffee Talk. That slowed down. We're getting back up there again. Karen, my front desk, is in the office 2 days a week. When I can't be available, she's taking calls. I'm forwarding calls to her. We got coverage covered. And I think between Karen and myself, we're doing a good job, even though we're a man down. Thank you so much. Any questions? Steve's talking.
Andy, I appreciate all you're doing, and can you go back to the $1,000 grants? That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. The governor put out $5.2 million for the state, and they can apply. What they need to do to apply is have been affected by COVID, laid off. They had to prove they're collecting unemployment. They had to get a letter from their employer saying that they were laid off due to COVID. We had to get some different forms together. There was a few hoops to jump through, but we applied for about 50. And I would say that 75% of those were granted. I would feel comfortable saying that. So that's about 45 or about $33,000 that came into Pine County via that.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So I have a question, Minnie.
Absolutely.
So are we trending, any uptick in vets or that we're servicing? Or are we-
I think word's getting out there, and I think the COVID, I know a lot of vets called and said, hey, I understand there's a COVID thing. Whether they qualified or not, they were calling me. And once I got them on the phone, we started discussing other options and other things that we could have. Like I said, we're getting about 60 phone calls a week, and that's on top of our regularly scheduled. We're not open for walk-ins, but I'm still getting walk-ins. I got people knocking on my window to talk to me, so.
Good.
That's good.
So any other questions?
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
It's awesome what's going on there with our vets, so thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, before Mindy leaves, I think there may be a resolution that still needs to be passed accepting the
yes.
$10,000 grant.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Beck.
We do have resolution 2020-57 that needs approval. We need a motion for that.
Ludwig will move 2020-57.
Rick, I'll second.
Who seconded it?
Mick, John.
Mick Rudd seconds. Any discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
District 4, Commissioner McBride.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to public health update. Sam, anything new?
There we go. Sorry, my computer is not cooperating. We're about 8 minutes shy of me having numbers updated as of yesterday. So numbers are actually from Sunday. But really, not a whole lot's new. We're still trending in this slow, steady increase after we kind of hit a valley and we're seeing another bump coming. We're living in another bump right now. We kind of dropped off sometime in June, or that was kind of our low point, and then we've been steadily going up, but slowly. It takes a while to exponentially grow. And Pine County really has been doing pretty good about not having a ton of cases. I don't know if that means we actually don't have cases or people just aren't being tested. So probably a little bit of both. But in general, we're doing good. We're really connecting with the schools right now. That's our main activity for the next couple of weeks in public health, is really supporting the schools that they can start off on as good of a foot as possible once we start back here after Labor Day. So we are sitting at 133 cases right now. So it's just a really slow, steady couple cases here that luckily nothing very exciting. Knock on every piece of wood people are around right now. But yeah, not a ton of news, which is good.
Can you you told me this, there's a certain number of cases that triggers if schools can stay remaining in person, and that's how many in Pine County?
So there's actually 5 different tiers because they break out secondary and elementary. So there's tiers in the middle that you could have hybrid, secondary and in-person elementary, and then hybrid for everybody, and then distance learning for secondary, hybrid for elementary. So it's a few tiers, but the first tier that we would be officially triggered by is if we had 29 cases within 2 weeks. So we're not there yet. It'll,
I'll remember that number now, 29 in 2 weeks.
and it's really not, a lot of people really put a lot of weight into that number and think that's the magic number that we need to be watching. And it's definitely a piece of the equation for monitoring for schools, but it's not the end all be all. So if we have a bunch of families in Pine City in the schools that are having cases, we're going to treat that differently, even if we don't hit 29.
Okay,
But it's definitely a helpful number to at least gauge how we're doing in general. Because if we're at 78, something's happening.
right.
It is helpful, but not the end all be all.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else got questions of Sam? CARES Act
Yeah,
funding
Mr. Chair.
distribution update.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
this is Mr. Chafee. I just have a quick question for Sam. What kind of a role will public health play with the schools, you know, in the event that they do have cases? Are you guys, what's public health's role then? Because you are working with them.
Yes. So we actually, one of the great things about building this we've been building a relationship for years, really building it in this next month. So I have a few.
Busy whole time. It really does that a lot.
you're breaking up bad,
Here we
Sam.
go.
We'll have to come back to you.
I think, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I think I can,
Yep.
I think I can cover that question. I think it's a
Okay.
great question. I think Sam and her crew have been doing an awesome job working with the school districts during the summer. There's been certain school activities, and certain situations where the schools have reached out to Sam and our team for guidance. And I think they've done a great job responding to that and providing the best guidance that is available to them through MDH and MDE. And clearly we're not making decisions for the schools. We're not administrators, but we are Sam and our team can definitely give some great public health guidance. So they've been doing that, and throughout the summer as needs arise, and even towards the end of last school year, schools were calling with questions. So Sam and our team have done a great job connecting with the schools, and that will just keep going through fall and winter.
Back.
Awesome.
Let me get it. Did you touch on the
Okay.
contact tracing piece, Becky? Okay, so that's the other piece that I'm sure Becky covered some other things really well. But the one thing that we will be doing here come this fall is our schools were really adamant. We kind of said there's two options for contact tracing. Either they can work with us and we'll go in and support, okay, Johnny was sick at this time. Who is here around? We'll work with them to figure out who should be quarantined for 2 weeks and do distance learning, who can still stay in school. They could also have opted for MDH to do that. And they were very adamant that they wanted local support. So now we're just going to work with MDH to kind of transition that over to us. And we do contact tracing for other cases already. It's just schools have kind of their own special bucket that normally MDH takes. But our schools were really adamant they wanted us to do it. So we'll be taking that on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
CARES Act funding distribution update.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is Dave Menke again. So we, as of the close of business yesterday, had received 18 applications to our small business assistance program. And that program does close on Friday of this week. And so at the end of the week, we'll know how many businesses applied and how much the total request was. And then next week, we'll be able to review those, and still planning to have checks out by that first week of September.
Nice.
And then I guess the questions that I have been getting that don't have good answers is, our program is limited to small businesses, which is 50 employees or fewer. And so we had noted phase earlier in the meeting. There are some other businesses that have reached out that said, how, what programs do we have? And at this point, the county does not have a county level program for businesses of greater than 50 employees. There are some federal programs like the PPP program that rolled out earlier in the spring.
So, David, do we have some companies then that they maybe weren't big enough to have all the resources to apply for one of the big federal grants earlier? Now they're too big to apply for the small business grants, so they're kind of stuck in that middle ground.
Potentially. I mean, I don't know if any of the businesses that had reached out have applied to other programs or haven't applied, or if they were denied, but I believe that the program that we have has to be 50 employees or fewer. And so I'm kind of looking to see if there's a workaround for that or not.
Thank you. Are the 18 applications, have you looked at them? Are they, I mean, are 100% of them, gonna get money of some sort? Do they get all they requested, or who determines that?
We don't have any of that detail yet. The Initiative Foundation has the applications, and we're just going to wait till Friday when all of them are in, and then we can start the review process. And I guess I can also update that we are going to roll out a nonprofit program for nonprofits that do not have an enterprise. So if you're a nonprofit with an enterprise, like the History Center with the museum or Family Pathways with the thrift store, if you have a business, you can apply to our business program. If you're a nonprofit that doesn't have a business, we'll have a separate program. It will likely be very similar with regards to the reimbursement piece and what are eligible expenses for reimbursement. And we'll probably just have a lower total dollar amount. Rather than $10,000, it will be $3,000.
Well, keep us informed. It's interesting as road we're going down, because I don't recall that we've ever done anything like this before, so I think it's new ground for us. Anybody else on any coronavirus updates? If not, we'll move to commissioner updates. The One Watershed, One Plan from the MAGI.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Levitt here. We had our meeting on August 6th. It was basically a general meeting because, we're on track with our initial funds to set it up, and we're going to have leftover dollars on the planning phase. Set the public hearing date after, it has to wait till after the 60-day comment period. That date is going to be October 21st at 7 p.m. And then we had, I raised the question because we're, like you, I think your board you're on too, is a memorandum of agreement. And when we move on to the next phase of this and implementation, I just wonder how cumbersome that's going to be. Do we have to wait to go back to each county board to do the review of the spending? So we're going to have some discussion with, I think, the attorneys there that are going to handle that. It'll go to ours. So do we set a spending threshold so we don't have to get in the way and just let them operate? So we had considerable discussion there with no real answers, but everybody was comfortable with the process of setting some type of threshold of dollars if it's a legal thing to do in a memorandum of agreement. So that's all we're checking out now. And other than that, it was just a good meeting. It went pretty quick. But that's all it was. Thanks.
Thank you. East Central Solid Waste, we met a week ago, I guess. Anyway, I think an interesting thing we're looking at is in the, both in the landfill and in the demo world, they get a lot of wood, 2x4s and 2x6s, the untreated wood. And so apparently somebody has developed, it looks like a giant wood boiler that somebody would have sitting in their backyard, but as a way to use that wood to heat our buildings there and mostly to keep it out of the landfill. Landfill space is not free. And so if we can use it for something else, I think we're checking on that and how much work it would take for somebody to separate all that material. So anyway, otherwise it's pretty mundane, pay the bill type of meeting. East Central Regional Library.
Yeah, I did actually miss the meeting, but I called the director, executive director, and just got kind of an update because I had missed the last couple. So she said that they did pass a budget, and the budget is flat for next year. It amounted to less, I think it was a couple $100 to Pine County, and it was just to, even though the budget's flat, our usage was up, so the formulation, it did raise ours. Like I said, it was a couple $100. So that was good. She said I think every branch in Pine County is open, limited for pickup, curbside pickup. The inside is not open to come in. I think they can make an appointment to use the computers, and that kind of stuff. She said it has been slow, but decent. So, not like it was, but not dead.
It's not in there. It's in the email.
And then,
I sent you an email from yesterday for
putting
me.
it up to like the local branches. So, like if there's a few in the region, there's a few like cities or areas that don't want to have anything right now. So that's up to them. And there's some that want to open their doors, and they're working through some policy to just have some guidance to that. So it is nice to see, if they have an area, it's not a region-wide thing where, hey, you have to open or you can't open. They're kind of putting it on the local area so they can kind of judge it a little bit. So I think that was good. So that's about it there.
Thank you. Where are we at here? Chemical Health Coalition.
Yes, I attended that meeting there. We reviewed our key finding reports that was done by the Montana Institute. Some of the highlights, I guess, 79% of high school students don't drink alcohol in a typical month, as well as 85% of high school students don't use marijuana in a month, nor do 77% use e-cigs or vape. T21 went in effect is August 1st at the state level now. And as far as the tobacco compliance checks, we're waiting yet from guidance from the state for those. We are also gonna supply the schools with masks when they go back to school here, and looking into getting face shields for them also. And also gonna supply them water bottles, seeing that the water fountains will be out of commission, I'm sure. So they can between classes, grab a bottle and go and get through their day. Other than that, it was a pretty quiet little meeting.
Thank you. Soil and Water.
Yes, we had our meeting on August 12th, and it was, the picture coming up, but it was a standard soil and water meeting, but I have a couple comments. Their forestry program and their management plans seems to really be taking off, and I think that's a really good thing that's happening there. And I know I've mentioned that before, but it's busy. Paul's doing a lot of work there. And the other highlight I think I want to bring forward is this picture. We always talk about our soil survey. And there's I hope you all can see it. It looks like from 2021 to 2026, we should be done. And if you look at the breakdown, like the Duxbury Moraine that's a big chunk of our county. And it says some of this stuff was published already. I don't really know. I didn't get a lot of detail with this, and I'll try to reach out to that person, but it's, at least we have an idea, and we know that they're working on it, and I know it's come up in county business before, so I just thought I'd let you guys see that part of it, so.
Can you get that emailed to us, Matt?
Yeah, I can send that to you. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, yeah, at least there's hope we'll get her done.
Well, they were having such staff turnover. That was part of what slowed them down. And I don't know if they're replacing staff, but I know they're using new technology, the LiDAR and all that other stuff. So they're doing a lot better mapping. So
do you know if you're in the Duxbury, whatever, Marina or the Grantsburg Till Plain, and you have to fill out a report, say you're a sewer pumper guy, will that appear so they can just click on the soil survey thing and it'll be done? Or do they have to wait till the whole county's done?
I don't know, but if you look at the bottom, it says they published some data and they've like published the dark blue in 2010 and some of the light blue in 2019. But what I don't know is where it shows up and how the data is accessible to the contractors or, the general public. But you're right, that's the whole idea, farmers.
That's the whole idea. And if a large chunk of the county is done, then contractors and such should be able to take advantage of that, and hopefully they can just fill out their forms or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know the depth of this and how detailed they go in their soil description, and I don't know any of that. Yeah. I know we had it once like 9 years ago from, I think Whitehead came to the county board and discussed it, but he's since retired, so. Anyway, that's
all right.
Much
thank you.
Yep.
Canvassing board. That was such a hard meeting.
Yeah. Check numbers.
I wrote on my little thing, easy peasy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you just had to sit there and listen to numbers and go, yep, that's right. That's what I got. Or every once in a while, something was transposed wrong. But overall, not very many things are wrong. They're a 1 here or a 2 there. But
it seemed like it was a low voter turnout, though.
Well, there wasn't much to vote on in most places, but I don't know if that's average for a primary. I do not know. Oh, law library.
Yeah, we did have a meeting. Just got a few things done. Just had to pass a couple things to pay some bills, and it was pretty quick. We had more of a discussion on, talking to Judge Martin and other, Kevin was the other attorney that was there. It was just 3 of us. And like Judge Martin had said, she goes, because I asked her how things were going, how court was going and that kind of stuff. And she said it's just been odd. She likes a real formal, where people come in their suit and ties and stuff like that. And she says sometimes the lawyers just have a t-shirt on and they're arguing here, and talking to her. She's like, I'm just used to having, if it's a male, they got a tie on and that kind of stuff. But she goes, I'm old school and I'm getting used to it, so, but she said it has been working well. Like, Steve, you've been working with the AMC on, you know, some of the hearings where they're in a mental institution and we used to have to drive them across the state to come for a 15-minute hearing. And she goes, that's really hard on the person, you know, and not real effective. And she goes, if we can do a lot of this stuff, they're going to try to continue to do it as they move forward. So, but that's for a different conversation, not law library, but we talked more about that kind of stuff than we did the law library. So. Oh, you're muted.
I'm glad those conversations are coming up in a lot of different circles, Josh, because I think that some of that stuff, in my estimation, is just kind of no-brainer stuff. And the more people talk about it, the more legislators hear about it, and maybe things will actually change. So thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Insurance Committee Planning Meeting. We had a little meeting this morning. Matt, do you want to say anything about that?
I will try, I'll try, okay? I think we brought it to the board before from this committee where we're always exploring on how we can level off the cost, or the increase in the cost to our insurance that happens every contract cycle. So, and it has been 2 years in the past when we get it locked in and we get a second year rate and things like that. So just in our planning, we started out, I think, a year and a half or more, looking at all options. We went to bid several times, and I think you all know that electronically too, but we've been exploring self-insurance versus, you know, buying through the resource or whatever, because that's a middle person that goes to Blue Cross Blue Shield, and those costs are actually costs that we should be able to save within the county itself, because they're just someone's managing the work type thing. So we had a presentation this morning that kind of, you know, rough numbers. Nothing's really drilled in deep yet, but it's a different concept. And I don't know how else to say it, Steve. You know, if the way it works now, we pay, and then if our rates, or if our usage goes up, or, you know, our usage goes up and shows negative in the policy, well, we're going to pay the next year, the rates just go up and we spend the dollars. So it's just, you pay now or later, that kind of, that's kind of what we've been doing. And we're trying to capture that so it's not a huge increase, and so we can just kind of manage the costs of our health insurance. That's what we're trying to figure out how to do. So I think we're starting to dig in pretty deep in self-insuring, and to see if, we don't know, we're going to see if it's feasible. We're going to present it to the insurance committee, which is a big group from the county, you know, good cross section. So I don't know, Dave or Steve, if you want to jump in if I missed something, but it looks like we can get the rates reduced significantly from where we're at. I think we're sitting at a 13.5 this year if we stay. That's our increase, which is a big chunk of money, $500,000 roughly. So we're just trying to figure out how to save those dollars that we could just keep ourselves. The insurance company still manages that. We don't have a lot of paperwork to it. They just send us a bill. This is what the costs are, and somebody has to write the check. We don't have all that. I mean, it's not a big job though. But kind of rambling, Steve. I don't know. So what do you think? I'm just trying to give a general idea.
I think you covered it generally pretty well. You know, we're looking at in this first year or two, we're going to be very conservative in our rate setting if we went self-insured. Mm-hmm. So we won't, the worker won't see a big change, and they'll actually see an increase in their premium, because you're going to see that anyway. But what we need to get to is, you know, about a third of we pay about $3.5 million in premiums a year. And if we can get a quarter to a third of that in a reserve fund, then we all can take a breather. Mm-hmm. And we think we could get there in about 3 years. maybe 5, depending on wherever, and maybe that's optimistic, but we think we can get there, and then we have a little more control of our destiny. The one thing we always have to remember is we can get as mad as we want at an insurance company, but insurance companies are paying our bills. And then they, and so if we have a lot of costs, they're going to raise the rates to cover their losses. And so that's basically what we have to do. We're buying reinsurance. Anyway, if we haven't confused y'all by now, we'll stop talking.
I'm really glad we're looking at it, though.
Yeah, I am too. I like the concept. When we have a meeting, that's tomorrow morning, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So our insurance committee meeting is tomorrow morning.
I can't remember.
Anyway. Any other meetings we need to report on? I'm going to report on one thing because it's a big deal in my area, I think in all of Pine County, and that's youth firearm safety training. If you're a youngster born after 1978, I believe, you need to have a firearm safety certificate in order to buy a license to go hunting. So I've been one of those volunteer instructors for 40 some years. Last spring, we couldn't hold class. And so we had rescheduled it to September. Well, now it's time to start class in a couple of weeks, but we have no place to hold the class because the schools have to remain shut down after hours, and that's where we've been having it. And so we've got a meeting tonight, and going with the theme of how we've been getting along, the state does offer an online option. It's a really good course. I've taken it myself. And then we will do a field trip, which we can incorporate everything they learned online, and then we do a field trip and they pass that. Then they get a certificate. So that's the way we think we're going to go in the Pine City area anyway. And I don't know if I get a lot of questions about that because people know I've been an instructor, but it's a big thing in rural Minnesota is getting ready to go deer hunting, especially. So anyway, see the meetings coming up. It seems like we've figured out how to do these for the most part. We're doing Zoom calls or WebEx calls to all of our off-site meetings, except for the East Central Solid Waste Commission, who seem to be bent on having a meeting in person, except for me. So maybe we'll get it figured out with them shortly. Anyway, any other business we need to talk about? Debbie, you'll have stuff ready to sign later today?
Whenever it works for you.
Okay. I got to move a grain cart because we're going to be combining wheat, and then I'll come in probably.
Okay.
So, okay. I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Commissioner Moore, are you there?
Sam.
Can you give me a call?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kelly, did you leave?
Yep.
So Dave, the investment committee, you got that, but we don't, I don't care if it's on here.